get going. It's up and running. I'm going to go ahead and call the real property meeting to order. It is now 4:02. We'll delay from technical difficulties. It is Thursday, May 14th. All committee members are present, as well as administration. I'd like to acknowledge the press and public have been duly notified of this meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. Next item on the agenda is a I always said, get tongue-tied with this. A motion to approve previous month's minutes.
So
Second.
Okay, there is a motion by Randy Bell and seconded by Kevin Popson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on. We have citizens' comments, and citizens' comments have been submitted through the online forum, and those will be made part of the record as well. We do have marina tenants, and none of them are on right now. Moving on to old business. Update on marina dock permitting and dock rehabilitation project. And we got some permits in hand, it seems like.
We do. Go ahead, Ryan.
No, that was it. I mean, I was moving on. I wasn't sure if there was any update on that, where we were with that, and this is where we're going to have anybody else who's going to jump in here on this.
So we have currently the OCRM and U.S. Army Corps of Engineers permits on hand. The design for the marina rehabilitation is nearly complete. One coordination item with Dominion Energy is left to be done. And I believe we have a representative from ATM on the call if you would like to add anything to that.
Hey, this is Kirby Marshall with ATM. Hope everyone's doing well. Good to see most of you. Sorry I don't have a camera, but yes, Ron, you're correct. We have both permits from OCRM and the Corps. I believe the OCRM permit's been returned to them. Desiree and I have been talking, and we've both reviewed the special conditions of the Corps of Engineers permit. I indicated to Desiree that based on our review, there's nothing in there that jumps out to us that's should be of concern or overly oppressive or atypical from what we're seeing on other permits. So I think it's great news. It took us about 9 months to get the permits, and we got really everything we asked for. We were able to expand the marina footprint slightly to accommodate easier access in and out of the slips. So I consider it a big win and a very big positive step for the project.
Perfect. And how much longer do we think we have on the design process, design and drawings?
I could be done in a matter of a couple of weeks. As Ron mentioned, we've got all the marina dock plans and specifications put together. All of the utility plans are essentially complete. I received 90% plus draft in my inbox last night. We were waiting on one little bit of information from Dominion Energy, and that's simply their requested details for the pad to accept their transformer. So the details of the concrete pad, very, very simple detail. We'll cut and paste that, put it in the plans, and be ready to go. I've also drafted an RFB, a request for bid, kind of the front end document that'll accompany the plans and specifications for the city to put out to bid. I've got that drafted, and like I said, I anticipate having all that in Desiree's hands and Ron's hands in the next week or two for their review, and it'll be ready to go.
So Ryan.
Yeah, go ahead, Randy.
Kirby, just for, I'm not sure who's listening from the public, but can you be specific, because this is a phased approach? Can you lay out exactly for the public record what was approved? It's phase one, and Ron, this question might be for you. Where is that documentation available for the public to view?
So
a lot of questions on the marina these days.
Sure, I can share my screen, Randy, and talk through that a little bit if you'd like, and then follow up with the.
Might be getting beyond our technical capabilities here.
I think I can do it. I know Let me see.
because just while he's working on technology, the questions around expanding the boat access really were safety concerns in that upper right-hand corner of the picture that just displayed in terms of, what's coming out into the entranceway near the boat ramps. So Kirby, if you could explain that part, it would be great.
And can you see my screen?
Oh,
I
yeah.
can't.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's existing marina layout. Can you see my little hand
Yep.
up there
Yes.
in that area?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So this is the existing marina facility, and what we were tasked with by the city at the outset of this post referendum exercise was to develop a plan to rehabilitate the marina in a similar configuration to what it is in now, but to upgrade it to make sure it's fully ADA accessible and generally efficient and designed to current industry standards. So we have some inefficiencies and problems with the existing marina, which have been well documented, and I can talk very briefly about those now. The slips in this area of the marina behind the marina store are very narrow. The finger piers are very narrow and very long, prone to twisting and breakage and problems. So we've considered that. The boat ramp in this area is somewhat congested. It's kind of difficult to get to, difficult gangway access in this area. And then the intracoastal dock has these short finger piers with mooring piles that make the use of those slips really difficult for any boats that are really longer than those finger piers. And then, of course, the condition of the floating docks throughout the Morgan Creek side, this side over here, is really poor. They're disintegrating out on this end, and they're really beyond their useful life, so they're in need of immediate replacement. So with that knowledge, we developed a number of replacement scenarios for the city to consider. The first marina concept we developed was to leave the fuel dock in a similar configuration to what it is now, to change these slips in this area in green very slightly to go from a single loaded slip, which means one boat between each pair of finger piers, to two boats between each pair of finger piers, and to use wider finger piers that are less prone to twisting and more stable and provide safer access. So we did that in this area, and we also provided ADA accessible access from the bulkhead in the form of a much longer purpose-designed gangway. In this area, we tried to honor the configuration of the existing facility, even though we know it's inefficient, but to provide some ADA access in here. This was a little difficult, a little cumbersome, but that was honoring the existing layout, which you can see the limit of the existing marina layout by this black dashed line on the outside. And then lastly, over here at the intracoastal dock, we remove those finger piers, we push this dock out slightly waterward, and we make it a side-tied dock where boats can berth beam two on both sides in a little bit deeper water, much more flexible, easy use. And then very basic reconfiguration of the water sports dock and inclusion of an ADA gangway over there as well. So that was layout concept one. A little cumbersome in this area, so we thought we might explore other alternatives, and we came up with concept two. This area stays the same as concept one. These areas stay the same as concept one, but we have a much more efficient, slightly expanded layout. Goes out into Morgan Creek about 30 feet, provides a little bit easier berthing out here, a little bit more naturally deep water, a little bit more slip space out here, and ADA access. Also a little bit more staging for boat ramp usage on this side, which we thought was very important. So that was a concept that we liked. We talked with the regulatory agencies. They didn't seem to have terrible heartburn about it, but the city asked us to evaluate a kind of fallback position. We knew that in scenario one, this area was slightly cumbersome. Scenario two, was a little bit aggressive in terms of how we were going to go out into Morgan Creek. So the city asked us to come back with another scenario And scenario concept 3 is similar, providing a little bit more streamlined access, a little less cumbersome in this area, but pulling this dock back to the line where the existing marina is. A little bit tough to navigate on the inside, but we thought that could be a good fallback if the agencies had issues with expanding out into the creek. They had some questions about expanding out into the creek. We were able to easily navigate and provide them suitable responses to those questions to ensure that there was enough water space, not only underneath these docks, but out into Morgan Creek. We're not encroaching on the deepest part of the creek. There's plenty of deep water out here. And we're not encroaching too far out into the channel where we would create navigation issues or challenges for boaters. So both the Corps and OCRM totally on board with this and issued permits for this concept too. So that's how we landed here. Now in the proposed redevelopment program, what we're calling phase 1, what we're designing to, what we plan to put out to bid includes everything on Morgan Creek. So the fuel dock that slips behind the store and all these docks in yellow here behind the restaurant. The intracoastal dock and improvements to the water sports dock are not included in the current design program. So it's just the work on Morgan Creek. There's no dredging involved in this project either at this time. So that's where we are, Randy.
Okay, thank you. And just for what it's worth, I think I can speak for the other council members. This is much easier to see when we're sitting on Zoom than it is when we're behind the dais.
Good.
Agreed. Good. Kevin?
Yeah, Kirby, just to confirm, so the OCRM permit mirrors this same concept too in the Corps of Engineers, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good. Yeah, this makes it a lot easier to look at. Hopefully, the folks who are watching can see. I mean, that was a good presentation, and
Yeah.
really understand it. So, okay. Any other questions, Kevin?
Just a comment. Great catch on the area B, the finger docks, making them wider to get more boats in there and less finger docks. Great idea. Great improvement.
Thanks. Yeah, I think it'll save the city some money too. Instead of having, one finger dock on each side, you've got one finger dock on one side and a little bit wider base dock. It should save some square footage cost in the floating docks as well. So should help.
Okay. Perfect. There is. I don't think does anybody have any questions on that? So you have a couple more weeks to get that information together. I'll get to Desiree, and then we'll get back in front of our committee probably next month. I'm assuming.
Okay. Sure.
Okay. Move on to old business B. Update on marina lease proposal. And I know we've been working back and forth with this. I don't know if Ron, you have anything to add, or you want to jump into this one, John?
You're talking about a restaurant, Ryan? Not
What did I say? Marina restaurant lease proposal. I forgot.
Yeah.
That yes.
key.
Yes. It's a keyword.
So we do need to have some discussions regarding parking around that, and I think that's probably going to happen in executive session. But John is here to maybe answer any questions that can be answered out here, and Julia is available as well.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for John right now or Ron? Or do you want to, any questions that be handled in executive session or?
No, I think the questions are all regarding a viable parking plan, because we can't have a viable restaurant plan without a viable parking plan.
Correct. I agree. Nope, I agree. Okay. So we will, I don't know if we want to, we'll just move on and go into executive session towards the end of the meeting then?
Yeah.
This one? Okay. Let's go to the update on the public safety rehabilitation project. And we were just updated the other day in our public safety meeting, and everything's moving along really well. I mean, they're just going around the outside of the building. They're doing a lot of work right now in the Sally Port. They've updated. They've got a lot of sheetrock work done on the second floor and getting ready to move into the third floor. And so basically, that's going to start moving our firemen out of the third floor and back into the trailers. Ron, I don't know if you want to update on that or.
I mean, that's all accurate. Chief Graham was going to be here, but I think maybe we're having some technical issues or something and weren't able to get her connected. So I do want to say things are going well there. There is a selection phase coming up for paint that we're looking at, but other than that, things are moving swimmingly.
Okay.
So,
Mr.
Go
Chairman,
ahead, Kevin?
is anybody on the Zoom from Trident?
No.
Okay.
Not at the moment.
So Desiree asked that I attend to answer questions about this part of the agenda. And I think you all have kind of collectively hit on everything that I was going to say. The only additional thing I would add is that they are holding tight on a, we have this deadline on the front portico, and they need to know something by June 1st, which is pretty, it's right around the corner. If we do want to add in the portico work, we need to let them know quickly. We had a call with Trident this afternoon. I expressed that just kind of my personal feeling on listening to the public safety meeting was that it didn't sound terribly hopeful that work would be done. So I advise that they start developing plan B for that. And the architects suggested, and I think they're arranging, just talking to an awning company to provide very affordable sun cover in place of that portico. So but that's a kind of point in the critical path that we're heading up to, and we'll need to give them a definitive answer on that portico in the next couple of weeks.
Debbie, just the cost differential, been a while since we've had full-on council meetings, but the cost differential in the two approaches was
$200,000.
Yeah, that's what I thought. How are we on contingency funding and all? I'm assuming like the only well right now is this project. So
right. I mean, I think that we built in a 15% contingency. I was just working on the project worksheet, and the relocation costs have been a little bit more than we were expecting, but we still have plenty of contingency money left that we could cover $200,000 with. But we're pretty, we're not that far into the project, so that makes me a little nervous.
we'll have to make a decision by the next full council meeting, I'm assuming, Brian.
Correct. I think we'll bring it up in the next full council meeting, have some discussion on it. I don't think it's $200,000 is a good use of taxpayer funds for an entrance. And I think, especially this time, in this year. And the alternative wasn't that bad looking.
No.
But we'll, like I said, we can make a decision when it comes to council.
I just want to address the amount of money that we were talking about.
Kevin?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if it's Debbie or Ron or somebody, but have they given us any change orders? Have they found anything that they weren't expecting?
So I would answer that and speaking about the contingencies, we have our own contingency. They also built into their schedule a contingency.
Right.
There has been some additional strapping that they've added, and there's been some soffit detail revisions that they needed to come up with. That's being addressed out of their contingency. So those, I don't know, they aren't technically changes, but they are things that that they've discovered, but they're covered under the existing agreement.
But they're not finding anything major, are they? Any issues?
No, and we talked a little bit about that. Ryan, you may want to.
Yeah, and then that's one of the things we talked about the other day is and that's why we had such a, conservative contingency in there, because once you start peeling away that onion, those layers, trying to figure out what's going on behind the walls and what's going on in there, nobody really knew. Once they got into the project and they realized there wasn't as much going on in there, and we didn't have to dip into any of those extra funds. So that's why it's been moving along, and they're still on schedule.
And theirs was 10% of their amount, and then we did 15% on top of that, if I recall.
I believe so.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Correct. Well, good.
Good.
Let's move on then.
Anything else? I'm gonna sign off. Thank you all.
Thank Douglas.
Douglas.
Douglas,
So moving on to D, this is consideration of rent abatement for marina joint ventures due to dock damage and the delay from the underground storage tanks. Deb, I don't know if you want to jump on this and talk about the amounts for that and the reasoning for that and how we come up with those numbers and those funds.
Yeah. So hopefully you all have a copy of the calculations in front of you, because I don't know how to do that slick share my screen thing. So two separate issues. First issue is rent abatement associated with dock losses. Two separate incidents that y'all are familiar with. One happened in May of 2018, and a second one almost a year later, April of 2019. So Brian says each section of loss section was approximately 65 foot long. So I'm just calculating the lost revenue using the monthly dockage rate. So if you go to the marina website, there are 5 different rates. There's a daily, there's a weekly, a monthly, a quarterly, and an annually. Obviously, the daily rate would produce the highest number and the annual rate the lowest. So we just chose the middle rate, which was the monthly rate, which seems reasonable. Calculate the full cost or the full missed revenue, and then assumed a 50% occupancy rate for the entire period. That gets you to the estimated rent abatement of $33,638, which I felt like was pretty reasonable. And Brian has, of course, would like us to use the weekly or the daily rate. Not so sure about whether the 50% occupancy is the right number, but was reasonably satisfied with that number as well.
Randy?
Yeah, I mean, that math makes sense. I mean, the thing that I would ask that we still look at is financial actuals against what we're rebating, not, feels like 50%. I mean, Brian, has financials to support what he has done the prior year on those docks that we could use as a calculation and some percentage of that. Personally, I'm not comfortable with, frankly, just making assumptions around, well, if it were 50%, we have no idea what it is. It could be more, it could be less, but I would like to make our decisions based on actuals and not, any supposition. And that's not aimed at Brian or aimed at the city, but I think we ought to be realistic about what are they bringing in, and what percentage did we use or not use. And those docks have still been used to some degree during this period of time, right? They weren't 100% incapacitated, I don't think, and I could be wrong on that, but that's just my thoughts on that.
Mr. Chairman, have we asked Brian for any actuals? Do we know?
And that's actually going to be my next question. If Brian has offered anything in advance of this, and I'm not aware of anything that he has. I know we're still waiting on other things. Ron, do you have any information, or Deb?
Well, what I do have is related to the second issue with the underground storage tanks.
Mm-hmm.
So Brian did supply financial information associated with that period that showed dock losses year over year for sure, but this would be a much longer period.
Yeah, two very distinct issues though.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Randy, on that. That if you would, I'm assuming there's got to be a way where he has those docks marked. He has an idea how often each space is occupied. I don't know. So I don't know if there's something that Brian would reach out if there's something more.
I just think the additional information would be helpful, and it helps us be fair to both parties, you know, the city and him.
Yeah, hopefully we can get that. We don't need to make a motion on this right now.
No.
But, we can, hopefully we can have some of that information maybe by Ways and Means or City Council.
Yeah, we can reach out to him and ask for that, just to see if we can get our hands on that information to present it.
Okay. And then that was the dock damage. Did you have anything else on, any one of you guys have any questions on the underground storage abatement?
Well, a question for Deb. Part of that, because the contractor was in default on completing it on time, there were monies that are not in effect coming out of the city's pocket on that. Deb, if you'd comment.
Correct. So the contractor, Jones and Frank, exceeded their allowable time to complete the project. There was some liquidated damage provision in the contract, and the city withheld a certain amount from the final payment. This estimated rent abatement here total for both the market and marina joint ventures is right at 10,000, which is, you know, quite a bit less than the liquidated damages.
Okay, so let's work on Ron trying to get some information, and then we'll have that for our next meeting.
So what I'm hearing is y'all want more information on the dock losses, but are okay with the underground storage tank calculation?
From me, yes. And Ryan, if I may, just to comment further, the reason it's not so much this incident. We have an ongoing issue. We don't know when these docks are going to be repaired. And I think it's incumbent on us to set process and procedure going forward, because we don't know if we're finished with this particular issue.
Perfect. Okay. Let's move forward then to new business. Consideration of a change order from ATM contract for additional services related to the Marina Dock rehabilitation project, the water and wastewater permitting pump out grant application, and construction administration services. That was a lot. And I think everybody, if anybody has any questions, it was part of the packet that came through. I don't know if Kirby wants to jump back in here on this one, or.
Sure. Yeah, thanks. So we were talking to Desiree about additional services necessary to facilitate the completion of the project. The first item in the change order request is for DHEC water and wastewater distribution permitting for the water and sewer systems out on the floating docks. There's a couple ways that can be handled. One is to allow the responding contractor on a project to handle that permitting utilizing the design plans provided in a bid package. Another is just to have the engineer do it. What we've been seeing on recent projects is that it just tends to be a little bit more efficient when the engineer does it, to avoid any kind of conflicts, confusion, back and forth between the contractor. It also reduces the amount of uncertainty in the bid that the contractor might have to put on a bid number. This is not an item that we included in our initial proposal, and it's something that we are recommending now just to facilitate the project. The timing is such that with a notice to proceed anticipated after Labor Day, that the permitting process there's enough time to do it between now and then. That's the first piece. Second piece is the pump out grant application. And what the pump out grant is the Clean Vessel Act provides a reimbursement for the installation or renovation of pump out infrastructure up to 75% of the infrastructure cost, as well as up to 75% of applicable engineering and professional services costs. So I think we're suggesting a fee of $5,000 to put that grant application together and shepherd it through the approval process. The anticipated cost of the pump out is $40,000. $30,000 of that would be reimbursable under the grant, not including engineering fees with the $5,000 fee, you're looking at a positive $25,000 net to the city by going through that process. Something we do regularly on most every marina that we do that has a pump out. Free money. And then lastly is the construction phase services for the project that include basically construction administration, owners representative services on behalf of the city to review technical submittals, review payment applications, review shop drawings, observe and inspect the works under progress on site for the project. And that was something that was not included in the original contract, but as we move forward into the construction phase, hopefully at the end of the summer, we would strongly recommend providing that service for the city to make sure that the project delivery is consistent with the design intent and your expectations.
Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, just a general comment, Ryan. Honestly, where we're at on the budget, I think this should be a broader part of the budget discussion when we start talking about add-ins and proceeding with other approved monies at this point. I understand why we need to do some of this. I'm not 100% clear why we didn't see some of this coming. I mean, pump outs and things like that seem to be, having dealt with this now for well over a year, I would have thought we would have covered some of this earlier, but that just might be. My suggestion is we have a broader discussion within the budget context of where we're at on all monies related to spend.
The excuse me. So the construction administrative services. So that's basically, and I'm going to look at maybe Ron, is similar to what we have going on at our public safety building right now. We hired outside source basically to monitor the monitor construction and the project as it goes along. That's kind of serves as that, and it was one of the discussions we had in previous meetings was to have somebody like that. A second here, and then what was the other one? Kirby, is there a time frame here that we need, or is there something that you need to move on a decision here or moving forward, or?
The only one that is time sensitive right now would be the DHEC permitting for the water and wastewater systems. That will require a little bit of lead time just to get the application together, but more so to allow some back and forth time with DHEC. With the virus situation, not everybody's back in full strength. So the sooner that can be done, the better. Technically, you're not allowed to proceed with the installation of those systems, the water lines and the sewage lines on the docks until you have those permits in place. But we also know that the utilities will be the last thing to go in on this project. So it's not like I need approval or we need a decision today on that. But the sooner the better with any kind of permitting.
Okay. One second, Kevin. And then what is your timeline for the grant application? Is that a year-round thing, or is there a deadline on that?
No, it's a year-round thing, and it's a reimbursement grant, meaning that the city will have to pay the contractor and then seek reimbursement for the monies expended. So it's not time sensitive either.
Kevin?
Yeah, I was just Kirby. So on the wastewater permitting, some of that is permitting fee. So a lot of this is just a pass through. And some of your time to put it all together. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, it's all labor time.
Right. So there are permitting fees that somebody would have to pay, whether it be us, you, or the contractor.
Correct. And I can't answer what that fee is off the top of my head. It's not much of anything, but the fee presented is the labor fee to put the application together. They require calculations and drawings in a specific format, and then just shepherding it through with DHEC.
And Kirby, second question, in the original bid, did you all estimate all the construction administrative services? Was there an estimate for doing this at one time?
Yes, we, well, it was a little bit different the original RFP was a little bit vague in terms of the scope of the project, you know, what docks needed to be replaced and things like that. So after we received some clarity from the city during the Q&A process while the RFP was out, we assumed that we would provide you a design fee for the fuel dock area only as the first phase of the project, what was noted to be the most critical. We knew all the docks on Morgan Creek were pretty well shot, but the fuel dock holding that fuel and pump out infrastructure was absolutely the most critical. So we provided a design and permitting fee as well as a construction administration fee having to do with that dock only. And we assumed a very short duration of time for that as well. So the fee was substantially less than what's presented now to accommodate for all of the docks along Morgan Creek and all the associated utilities and things of that nature.
So it's grown.
The fee has grown along with the scope of the project, yes.
Okay.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I don't know if anybody wants to make a motion on any of this, or you want to, or unless we have this part of our budgeting process as well, Randy, like you had mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, just a comment on the grown, and Kevin, to your point, none of this has grown. You know, the role of Kirby has grown, but we've been very methodical in, you know, addressing the fuel pumps. The fuel dock, because we also had underground storage tanks at the same time, and we're very cognizant of doing that piece and getting it done. To what Kirby's commenting on, he's exactly correct. We've been back and forth on what this phase one looks like, what's included in it. And I think it's just prudent on us to review, you know, within the context of a budget process, what are we talking about right now? So, you know, if we decide we're going to proceed with this, we've got a complete view for everyone on this. Make sense, Kirby?
Absolutely, Randy. Yes, sir.
Okay. Perfect. Good. We'll get updated on that. We'll roll it into our budget process, and if there's anything time sensitive, we can handle that with, you know, coming up. Discussion of, we're gonna move on to discussion of Front Beach Public Restrooms maintenance contract. As you know, the contractor that we normally have for their up and pulled out and decided not to do it anymore. So we had to jump in, fill in.
His timing was impeccable, Ryan.
Yeah, I'm telling you. Yeah, it's and I mean, given the circumstances, I honestly don't blame him.
That's my point.
You know, so it is, but we're moving forward. I think we can actually, I think Desiree's working and Ron working on trying to find ways to get this done and actually be a little bit more efficient and maybe perhaps some cost savings, Ron.
Yeah, I can speak to that for sure. The annual cost of the contract that we had was $61,000. And we have entered into an emergency agreement with Quality Touch Janitorial Services, who came highly recommended. Currently, it looks like during the during the summer months, we'd be going to a daily cleaning of the bathrooms, and the monthly cost for that would be $2,800 or so. And that would essentially be happening during the same time that we're doing the twice a week garbage collection.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on that? Do we need? Who is that? Oh, Deb.
It's Debbie.
Go ahead.
One thing I wanted to add, while we think that our public works employees can handle restocking and opening and closing during the off season, and the service can handle that, the cleaning, periodic cleaning and periodic restocking in the summer season, we feel like that there is still a need to have someone more frequently restocking on the weekends in the summer. So we are looking into a part-time person that would do that, but it would still altogether come in much lower than what we are currently paying for a full-time attendant 12 months a year.
Okay.
So,
Go ahead.
right.
Randy.
One question, one thought. We're not in normal times with it, right? So back to the impeccable timing on the part of our old contractor. We don't know how long our sort of intense cleaning has to occur. And there is projected to be monies available for COVID related expense. Would this not fall under potential reimbursement categories if we went to a more aggressive cleaning of the public restrooms, given they're the only available public restrooms? And Ryan, there may not be an answer to that, but it's something worth looking into.
Definitely, without, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely worth looking into. It may be that that's not necessarily available because this is something we were going to have to do anyway.
Not
Not
necessarily run on a daily basis. So I think, when I hear things like, twice a week on a garbage collection schedule right now, that's a little horrifying right now under current conditions.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, we really have to look at and see how, like I said, this was done on emergency order with janitorial.
Right.
We'll monitor that. If we need to adjust it as needed, we can.
And
Go ahead,
let
Deb.
me just clarify. I don't think we were talking about twice a week attention being paid to the public restrooms. It's that our people can
Right.
handle it during the
Understood.
except during twice a week garbage time.
No, I understood. I just
They
think
will
we're
continue
probably going to be
to-
more aggressive this year than we have been in the past. And if there's monies available, we should look at those monies.
For sure.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah. Okay. So I don't. There's really no action we can take on that. We've already made. I mean, we've had it. I guess it was when it has to go out for rebid again, then we can rebid it, or at that time. But I think right now, under circumstances, we'll keep moving forward with this janitorial service. Agreed. Okay. Let's really rolling through this thing. Do we need to have some discussion in executive session on leases and
Parking.
Or,
I will make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
okay, there's a motion to go in by Randy Bell, seconded by Kevin Popson. Motion to go into executive session just to discuss leases pertaining to Marina and Marina Restaurant. So all those in favor? Is that good?
And specifically, sorry, just specifically to get legal advice related to these leases and the parking arrangement.
Yes, specifically to get legal advice.
All right, thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're going to wait just a second here until Ron